All right, excellent. Well, welcome everyone. We are so excited today to be joined by three of our Kansas schools who have won the Civic Advocacy Network Award. This year in 2023, the Kansas State Department of Education awarded only 10 schools across the whole state with the Civic Advocacy Network Award. And this award is really intended to recognize schools that are providing exemplary opportunities for civic engagement in and outside of the classroom within their school district. So today I have joining me Sierra Jackson, and she is with the Spring Valley Elementary School in USD 475. I also have Luke Matil. Okay, thank you. And he's with Central Heights High School, which I believe is USD 288. Excellent. As well as Katie Cormack, who is with Shawnee Mission North High School, USD 512. And so we're so excited to have all of you here today representing your schools. I'm going to take just a minute, as I always do in these webinars, and provide a quick introduction to the hidden gem that is the Kansas Volunteer Commission within the Kansas State Department of Education. Our vision is to inspire Kansans to meet community needs through service. So we serve as an intermediary. We're a resource hub. We provide a variety of training, technical assistance, and grant opportunities to community-based organizations, government entities, school districts, institutions of higher education, just a variety of partners across the state, helping us to advance and promote volunteerism, civic engagement, youth mentoring, and AmeriCorps National Service. This is just one of a three-part webinar series that we've been running throughout 2023. So if you also find yourself incredibly interested in youth mentoring topics, as well as volunteer engagement topics, we hope that you'll check out our other webinars that are available at various times throughout the month. I also want to take this opportunity just to remind everyone there will not be a civic engagement webinar in October, but we will be back in November with the remaining schools who won the Civic Advocacy Network Award to hear from them and the accomplishments that they've made. As a reminder as well, we've been running a 7-part mini grant series this year with mini grants opening practically every month. We have already opened and closed, so I'm sorry that your opportunity passed for this year, but keep it in mind for next year. Our Mentor Capacity Building mini grant, which comes out every January, the Volunteer Manager Support mini grant, which is for professional development for volunteers and volunteer managers, our Youth Civic Engagement mini grant, which I hope you're all taking note of, because this is for youth-led and youth-inspired service projects. Our Social Justice Capacity Building grant intended to help volunteer and mentor programs build their capacity around social justice issues. Our 9/11 National Day of Service mini grant, which most of those projects have been completed here recently in the last week or so. We just closed and are getting ready to award the Rural and Indigenous Communities mini grant, which is intended to help rural and Indigenous communities to build their capacity around volunteer and mentor efforts. So maybe they need to build something brand new, or maybe they need to expand what they're already working on, but these are dollars specifically for those types of communities. And then last but not least, in October, we're going to kick off the Martin Luther King National Day of Service mini grant. And this is intended to provide funding for service projects and other sorts of projects that would honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. All of our mini grants are available to a variety of eligible entities, including all of the school districts who are currently on this call, as well as government entities, institutions of higher ed, any nonprofit in the state. Pretty much if you're not for profit, then we can partner with you on these grants. Every grant, you may request up to $5,000. And all of the grants, there's no cap on the number that you can apply for. So we have many organizations that use this in sort of a stacking way. They'll do grants that complement each other so that they're having a broader impact. So again, the MLK is the only one that remains for this year, but those dollars will be ready and available to you to use in January to run service projects and legacy projects. And then we'll kick off the mini grant series again next year. I also am sharing the sad news in case you haven't seen it on social media or in the newsletter that we published. But due to circumstances beyond our control, we have had to cancel the nonprofit and volunteerism conference that was scheduled for next month. So if you find yourself having already registered for that event, please reach out to me individually and we'll be sure that your registration refund is processed. And as always, I like to end by just letting you know there are many ways that you can stay connected with us. So our website is canserve.org, and out there you can find a variety of information and resources. All of the grant information is there. If you're just learning about our 3-part webinar series for the first time, have no fear. They've all been recorded and posted to our YouTube page, and you can find all of those recordings on our website. You can also sign up for our newsletter while you're there. It's the best way to get the first information about any of our grant opportunities and upcoming training events that we might be having. And if you would like to invite us either to your school or to a community organization that you might be part of so that you can learn more about the ways the Kansas Volunteer Commission could support your efforts, be sure to reach out. And of course, we're on all the social medias, so you can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, then, I would love to turn it over to the winners of our Civic Advocacy Network Award to share with us what amazing things they're doing in their school districts that we could take back and use as ideas in other schools across the state. So we will get started with Luke, who is coming to us from Central Heights High School. Thanks for being with us, Luke.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to join you on the meeting today. So I feel really special to be in the school we're in. Central Heights is a small school, about 550 total students, pre-K through 12. And we are in a rural setting. We're not actually in city limits anywhere. We're in the middle of the country. So finding community and opportunities to be in our community is really big for us. We really want to embrace that. So some of the unique ways that we've been able to do that as we kind of built through the last few years, we started a partnership with an equine therapy ranch, and we have kids that go out there and do some leadership planning and stuff like that to bring back ideas to school. And that was kind of the start of it all for us, was getting involved with them, helping them with some of their projects that they're doing. And then from there, we implemented Leader in Me in our building. We're on year 3 with that, which that really kind of challenged us to turn over some of our things to our students because it seems like it's so easy that we as adults want to take over and make sure everything's done right, but the reality is our kids can do it when we give them an opportunity to. So some things that we've turned over here recently that were a huge success. We turned over all of our Veterans Day assembly programs. So they planned a meal to bring in our veterans. Every grade level was represented with some part of our program, and we honored our vets in a variety of different ways. They worked with our local VFW to get flags put out. Some of our student groups went to our towns along a major highway and set out flags on all the streets in the towns and stuff. So that was something in the past that had kind of been adult centered with student support, and that completely changed because now it's student driven, student planned, and they've just expanded something we had that was already really good. Another thing that we started this last year was called Mini Course Day. So the unique thing about our district is we have all students under one roof, pre-K through 12. So our high school and middle school students were developing lessons on a variety of topics, something that they were passionate about, and we would go down to the elementary building and deliver those lessons to our elementary students And we did it twice now with the intention of in 2 years, we've done it twice. Our intention is to do it 4 times this year. So trying to build upon that momentum that we had with that. Another great opportunity that we had here locally last year, we started with our freshman English class going out to our Meals on Wheels delivery locations for the elderly. And so once a week for 6 straight weeks, we went out, and it started off just like playing bingo and interacting with the elderly. We delivered meals to those that were not able to make it in. But kind of the culminating activity that we did, students began interviewing the elder people in our community. And we did that over a 4-week period. They had different questions, and then they would come back to school and they would work on a presentation. And the final thing was we invited all the elderly in for breakfast. Again, student planned, student prepared breakfast, and we did presentations on the adults' lives. So it's kind of neat getting all the different generations together and serving our community, because those are the people that come support us at ball games and support our fundraising efforts and all that. So it was a really special opportunity for us. And then our huge event that we do is we have an honor flight chapter here at our school, where we pair one of our high school students with one veteran, and we fly to Washington, D.C. And tour the major monuments. We see the changing of the guard at Arlington National Cemetery. We share their stories and kind of help get some closure on some things that they didn't have when they returned from Vietnam and stuff like that. And so we have done it for 5 years now. And so that's a pretty expensive but pretty fun trip that we go on. We have incredible support from our community to go on it. And actually just last night, we had a former veteran that came back to our school and officiated a volleyball game. He came back early and spent about 40 minutes in my office just visiting with his guardian that went with him 2 years ago, and brought her back a birthday gift and all that sort of stuff. So those are kind of some of the fun and big things we do. And we just try to embrace that. Because since we don't have that town here to rally around us, we have to create the community within our area. So we've been trying to figure out different ways to do it.
Thank you so much, Luke. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
We're happy to stand for questions now if you have questions for each individual speaker, and then I'll also give another opportunity at the very end. Does anyone on the call have any questions for Luke with Central Heights High School? Okay.
Well, thank you. If you ever
funny
have
story,
questions,
Luke.
certainly reach out.
Absolutely. Funny story, last night we were going to a volleyball game, and I knew it was Central Heights, but then somehow we got mixed up and we ended up going to Chase County instead, which is in Cottonwood Falls. So about an hour and a half in the opposite direction, and then we missed the game. So I could have said today that I've been to your school and that it was lovely, but we went to the wrong school.
They're in our league, but they're a long ways away.
A long ways away, yes. Okay, well, now we're going to turn it over to Katie Cormack, who is with Shawnee Mission North High School. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thanks so much for this program. I actually just took notes during that for some ideas. I guess I'll kind of give you an overview. I'm at Shawnee Mission North, which was the first high school in Johnson County. So we're in the northeastern part of the state, one of 5 high schools, suburban, but very quickly changing demographics. In the past, I think I've been here for 17 years, and our Hispanic population has really grown, and that kind of played into some of the things that I put in our application, was trying to make sure that we're connecting to the community that exists around us instead of just always doing the same old thing. And so I guess I wrote down some things that I can talk about some of the different things we did. I teach all the levels of government. And so I predominantly work with seniors, and I also teach a leadership class with our student council, NHS president. We just kind of put a bunch of exec kids in a class and we work on leadership in the school. And so I tried really hard in North's application for this award to make sure I was also reaching out and figuring out what we were doing in the school. And it was really cool to see just how much is done, because we're a pretty big school. So first we have a nationally recognized NJROTC program that does a ton of stuff in our community. I think that's just sort of the nature of that program, but the Blue Angels came out and worked with them this summer. They helped with Navy Days in downtown Kansas City. They do travel and do competitions, and so they spend a week in Pensacola working. But they're also very much present as color guard at a lot of community events. They visit the VFW. So they're a great way to get kids interacting with the community outside of our school, while also completing a program that for a lot of them sets them up for some careers. We also have a real world learning counselor on staff whose primary job is to get our kids connected to things that they might try out after school. So it could be trades, internships, mentoring programs with the community. But in the classrooms, what we can do for those students that are struggling to find, if they're not ready for an internship, what do we do? How do we help them? And so we've started to focus a lot lately on client connected projects. And so, for example, our sophomore English classes did a lot of research on nonprofits prior to the Day of Giving Back that follows like the Cyber Monday, Black Friday sales. And so they picked local nonprofits and reached out and did some research to try to help increase the profile. So they were able to do a little bit of English research, a little bit of expository work, but then also some social media graphics, which they were into. Our Spanish classes have created Spanish language websites for our community, but they took it beyond school and reached out to local businesses since our population is changing. How they asked, how can we help you? Can we translate things for you? Can we, Google Translate is not perfect. And so they kind of created some marketing for the outside world. We've also done, like in my student council leadership class, we every single year do a charity picnic / carnival, and our student body nominates different charities. They could be local, influenced by that sophomore project, but it could also be national, or this year they chose an international, like rainforest deforestation charity, but they have to nominate this charity, and then research is done, and people sort of promote the charity to be chosen. We take it to a vote for the student body. And then there's one day where we have an adjusted schedule. And for 2 hours, we're outside in our rose garden with inflatable bouncy houses and nachos and hot dogs and a dunk tank. And all of the money and proceeds go to that charity that the students chose. And we find that the buy-in is significantly greater if they're part of the process in choosing which charity the money goes to. I think also as a government teacher, I obviously try to sneak in a lot of civic action. So I use the Civic Action Project, which comes out of California. I learned about it at a National Council of Social Studies conference. And I actually use it throughout the semester to frame my government class. So we're not just learning about the 3 branches of government, but they're learning about issues and policy and which levels of government handle policy. And then they have to eventually take a civic action, which could be speaking at a school board meeting, or obviously reaching out to a government official tends to be a really popular action. But we've had students get into webinars with the State Board of Education talking about curriculum choices, or joining a city council meeting to talk about breed-specific bans for dogs. So things that they spend the semester researching and then trying to come up with adequate government policy, and then making them kind of connect to the community with that. This year, what we're really excited about, because we've sort of laid the foundation the last few years, this year we're going to continue. We have a voter registration drive on Monday in celebration of Constitution Day. And so we really target the seniors that will be 18 by election day. And we try to talk to them about Kansas's regulations and laws regarding making sure you're registered 3 weeks before the election. And so the students, they run it, they create it. It's kind of like what was said before. I could easily put this together myself in my government class, but I turn it over to our leadership and government students to kind of develop, create, reserve the room, get the correct forms ready. It is entirely student-led. And additionally, this year, our school board representative who's represented us for, I don't know how many terms, has retired. And so we have a contested school board election coming up to feed our area. There are 8 elementary schools that feed into our school and then 1 middle school. And so I think the North area board representative will probably represent 1,500 plus 8 elementary schools. I mean, maybe 2,500 students and their families. The kids they're holding a town hall. So we've reserved our auditorium. We're in the beginning stages because we're doing it as a client connected project. So the students have come up with a list of PTA presidents to go speak to. They have the calendar. They're putting together a survey. They're trying to get feedback from the community on what they want the board candidates to answer. Their backgrounds, their I guess any topic they wanted to discuss, what they think they'll do as board members, because we've been so consistent for the last few years and we're going to have someone new. And so the students are leading this community town hall forum, I guess. So we are in partnership with some journalists from a local paper who will moderate, and then the students are going to collect the information to share with that journalist on what the community wants to know. They're going to provide childcare at the event. They're going to usher and sort of MC before they turn it over to the pro. And then they're also going to have information there about registering to vote, how to find your polling place, how to look up a sample ballot, and all the stuff with early voting dates and election day, and then do a survey at the end to get feedback on what people liked or what they would change about the event. And we can sort of use that in our government class to talk about making choices, which is tied to our standards. So we're trying really hard to really connect content within our classrooms to the real world and serve a purpose to create this community around North. I could keep going, but I'm going to limit myself.
Thank you so much. I think very often we see civic engagement as this, oh, I have to do this extra thing on top of everything I'm already doing. But you've done a really nice example there in Shawnee Mission of using civic engagement as sort of the tool by which you're making what you're learning applicable to the real world. So kudos to you. Thanks for sharing. I'll pause to see if there's, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, thank you on behalf of the whole building and not just me.
I do have, well, first of all, Abby and I would like to say that we wished we would have had a Katie for our teacher when we were in government and history. So very exciting. But Katie, we're not elementary, but first for our district's purposes, is your real world learning counselor in addition to other counselors at your high school?
So the original design was yes. I don't think that the State Department of Education had made that change with regards to, and I don't even know the terminology they use. We use market value assets, but it's something that the class of 2028 will have to have so many credits showing that they have sort of a plan after. I want to say when talks started, our district had a strategic plan and we used the ESSER funds to fund this position. When that went away, the real world counselor had to combine with an alphabetical. So our real world counselor, that's her primary job, but she has like X through Z in terms of last names. So she does a little bit of both, but they tried to limit her to just this smaller group of students.
Excellent. Thanks so much for that. And last, but certainly not least on our call today is Spring Valley Elementary School. And we'd like to welcome Sierra, and you can introduce your other staff member with you.
Well, I have Abby Allen, and she is one of our coaches here. And Abby was very instrumental in setting this up. And so at an elementary school, we have been working really hard on our whole school being like our leadership team, not just a few people. And so we meet in professional learning communities, and we use this platform called Schoology. And so I'll let Abby explain what she did, because this was really a whole school effort. So I wanted to definitely give credit to that, because it certainly wasn't driven by me.
It was really exciting because we attempted, like in the past years, we did the civic engagements application and the writing, with just a few of us that we would consider to be on our building leadership team. But then we wanted everybody's input, because everybody has such great ideas, and they may think of something that we've done and that we do that we may not have remembered. And so what we did was we broke each section down, and I used Schoology. That's our learning management platform. And then every section of the application had a folder. And so when we would meet with our PLCs, so for example, like second grade worked on the second section the first time. The next time we got together, then second grade transitioned and they worked through the third section, and so on. So every single grade level, and then our like special education teachers, our counselor, everybody, they all partnered with a certain grade level. And so then everybody had input in this project. So that was great.
Yes. And obviously it worked. So we're very excited about that. And we also even had our support staff involved in this. And so after we had this, and then they added additional input. So we were really excited about that. And so we had a pause there for a while on some of the main things that we were doing because of COVID, just because we couldn't go out into the community. So we're so excited that we've been able to start like our student council again, and some of the other things. But we are working really hard on teaching our kids about partnering with communities. So we've like adopted some activities, I guess, or organizations in such a way. We have a laundromat in our community, and one night a week, it's called Laundry Love, and people can go and do their laundry for free. And so our students have collected items for that, and then staff have gone down and just facilitated that activity and ran it for the people. So that was one thing. We also have an organization, it's Wheels of Hope, and the Hope stands for helping other people eat. And so we've done food drives from them, but also to extend it so our kids can see how the operation really works and be part of that. Our students actually went to the location where they house all the food and helped sort the food and pack it and get it ready for distribution. And we're really excited that our community is starting where our Wheels of Hope and our food pantry are coming together. And so we're really hoping to get in on the ground floor of that and partner a little bit more with that. Then we also have a nursing home that they adopted, and they would go for holidays mostly and make cards for Christmas. And then they would go at Valentine's Day. And then we we had Spring Valley singers, and they would go and sing. We help with the kettle, Salvation Army kettle rotation around. So just trying to get our kids to be more out in the community, but we're trying to look for those more sustainable connections where we would be not just there once in a while. And I think this year, our hope is to start looking at that laundry of love and help a little bit more with that. Let's see. We have 12 elementary schools. We have 4 at Fort Riley, and we have 1 out by the lake, Lake Milford. We have 1 in Grandview, and the rest are in town. And we're so fortunate to have a good relationship with Fort Riley. And so every school has, they call it adopt a school or adopt a unit for us. And ours is the 101st Brigade. And so it's really nice because even though Spring Valley is in town, 47% of our students have at least one parent connected to the military. So we're partnering with them. They actually came to our Freedom Walk, and we had 80 soldiers here. So that was super exciting. So just trying to show the students the things that are in the community that we can support, and then how they support us at school. other opportunities that we're doing, just so we can keep that academic piece, is getting involved in things that they have within the community. So our library has a bookmark contest every year. So we have our kids participate in that. The Elks Lodge has an essay contest. And so just giving back to those organizations and communities. This year we had it was the first ever Juneteenth celebration where they looped in the students in our schools, and we had winners for that. So just letting them see all the things that are out there. And it's kind of nice for some students that also aren't doing the community sports and things like that, to have them be able to get involved in like essay contests or poster contests or things like that. What else, Abby, can you think of?
I think that was pretty much everything. It's just so exciting to get our kids involved in those outside opportunities, because our kids, they just really enjoy it and they love the recognition, and they always just put forth like their personal best effort. And a favorite of ours is definitely our Dorothy Bramlage Public Library bookmark contest, because our kids really love that contest.
And we always have lots of winners. But some of the things that we did during COVID was we kind of just had to do community projects within our school. So we did more service projects for like the students, like we did candy grams. We developed things called Kind Cats. We did some like Earth Day around here. So when we couldn't go places, we just created those systems within our school. So that's pretty much what we're doing at the elementary, which I know it looks a lot different than secondary. So.
That's why it's nice to have a variety of different school levels represented. We only had one middle school that won the award this year, so we'll look forward to hearing from them in November. So I'd love to open it up now for any questions that anyone on the call has for any of our 3 special guest speakers.
Can I ask a question?
Please, of course.
Okay, I was gonna ask you, Sierra, the Adopt a Unit, how does that work? Like, do you just reach out? Because I was just thinking that might be really great, even though we're not close to Fort Riley. We have a ton of kids that end up at K-State, and then our ROTC program. I mean, I'm just thinking like, I would love more information.
Sure, I could get you, it's actually, there's a point of contact, there's a liaison between our district and Fort Riley, but I could send you Sandy's information, and yeah, they might like to expand that. So, but we do have a coordinator, and so we have, every school identifies a person to go to a meeting once a year, and they kind of like talk about everything, and ours happens to just be our PE teacher, and we send 2, and our counselor. But yeah, I bet they would love to expand beyond just Geary County.
Right.
So I think
And you could,
your
Katie,
email
you could also
should have been on the distribution list. I think we have it. And yeah, I'll email you that information.
Thank you.
and you might also ask them if there are other opportunities at Fort Leavenworth, which would be closer
Right.
for you.
Right.
Closer.
And Sandy can probably get you connected with someone there. She's been around a while, so she has a lot of contacts.
Right. Well, and I was going to say, honor flight program. I would love that. My dad's a veteran, and I just think that's the coolest. So I'm very impressed with all the things that you did. I took notes.
We wrote down the honor program too. Obviously, it would be on a much smaller scale, but we thought about, we in our area, we have off on Veterans Day, no matter where it falls, even if it's on a Wednesday, during the week. And so we've really talked to our students about veterans. So yeah, Luke, we're going to try to see if we can do something similar to that. That was lots of great ideas today.
Yeah.
And we also have another, sorry, Luke, we have another school district in the state that has also received this award, and they are really heavy into the honor flight as well. And that's at South Lyon County. And all of their schools in their district have won the Civic Advocacy Network Award. All 4. It's small. Well,
they do a fantastic job with their honor flight.
They really do. Did I interrupt you, Luke? Were you going to say something earlier?
No, I was just saying I was pretty fortunate to step in when I came to Central Heights. Honor Flight was in year 3, so I was pretty fortunate. I didn't have to like create it. I stepped into a really good support system that already kind of had a well-oiled machine going. So, but we were fortunate in that we started out initially with Walmart Distribution Center would donate us like pallets of stuff that they couldn't sell or they had extra, and we got a ton of money off that. And unfortunately, that opportunity is kind of shut down. So, but our local businesses, our local community has been really good at supporting Honor Flight. So, yeah, it's been good. I think our kids get more out of it than the veterans, but I think the veterans would argue otherwise. So I think it's just an all around good event.
I'll ask a question. One thing that we hear oftentimes from school districts is, how do you get the buy-in to have sort of this school-wide focus on civic engagement? And how is that cultivated? How do you get administrative buy-in? How do you find the time for it or make the time for it in the day? There's so many challenges that come with incorporating civic engagement into the school. And how have you all or your school district helped to break down some of those barriers?
In Shawnee Mission, a survey went out, and I can't even tell you when. The years are a blur. COVID changed our timeline big time. I have no idea when this happened. But they were building a new strategic plan, and it actually came from the community. I don't know if it was businesses. I'm guessing it was businesses saying that they would love to see more students that have some more like real world application. That maybe those soft skills were not where they wanted them to be. And so through a lot of research and development over the course of several years, I mean, we created this sort of real world learning counseling position at each of the high schools. And we obviously tie it to our individual plan of study, the stuff that's required by the district or by the state for accreditation. But we really are leaning into the client connected projects with the students. It creates more rigor and relevance, to use some buzzwords in education, but it's true. I mean, I think it was really hard as a classroom teacher to give up total control. I think Luke said it as well. Like when you give the students a project, this town hall meeting, you know, I'm kind of like, why haven't you emailed this? The PTA meeting is this week. You need to give them a heads up, but I'm letting them learn through the experience. And I also think it's really powerful sometimes to learn from messing up. I think they'll remember it better. So our parents, we don't have like a ton of, we actually struggle a bit with like parent involvement, not in like parent apathy, but just being able to come up to the school. Our economic situation is different from the rest of the county. And so, we don't get a lot of pushback or anything. I think this is actually incredibly pop if you can frame it in a way where you say, I mean, what's the point of education in the first place? It's to get them ready to be a part of society. And so we've really tried to embed it into our curriculum. And in some classes, it's smooth. Government, I mean, I can find something every year that they can be civically engaged with. But I think, you know, our science curriculum has changed to storylines. So instead of just reading chapter books, they're starting to be presented with problems or issues, and then they have to figure it out using scientific skills. And so that type of learning that we're kind of moving towards lends itself really well to reaching out to the community and trying to find connections. And we've found that the community is like starving for that connection, because they know if students have experienced these things, they're much more employable and valuable in the future. So we've got a ton of like district support, obviously. I mean, I would be surprised if our schools wouldn't all qualify for this in some way if they were following through on that strategic plan. So there hasn't been, and it's like giving up the chapter book and trying to work in your learning targets with like true relevant application, taking like, I'm supposed to be learning about the election process. Okay, instead of just reading about it, let's hold a town hall. It takes sort of a leap of faith, but I would never return to the old way. So it's really rewarding to watch them engage in what they're learning. So it reinforces itself. That was a very long answer, but that's what I'm going to go with.
That's a very good answer. Thank
Well,
you.
and we would piggyback on that as well. It's part of our strategic plan. And then, so the district gives us an outline, and then we just take those main ideas and then frame them for our own school. And, we've been on such a small scale before, like our site council, we're supposed to have a community member partnership and those types of things, but then that only gives you one view. And since we do have so many schools, that is probably lacking for most of our schools, is that site council piece. Then the other thing that I was thinking about was some schools have school partnerships, and they've had those for a really long time. It's generally more the secondary schools, I think, just because of the nature of the activities and things like that. But I would say that the strategic plan helped. And as far as the buy-in goes, I think how we framed it this year is we hadn't made, been selected before. And then we were like, I know there's so many things going on. And so I think just having everybody have a voice in it too. And then once they realize, oh yeah, we do that. Oh my gosh, we do this. And you realize how much you are doing, and then how you can take that and tweak it and expand. And I agree with Katie, the more kids are actually doing, the more engaged they are. And that is actually one of our school's goals, is engagement. And so engagement can look not just in the classroom, but expanded out. So it actually was not that hard to get buy-in, because it's stuff that people were doing. And now they're like, oh, now it's actually something we're supposed to be doing. So,
and things that we're very proud of as well.
yes. Yeah. And the kids are proud, and they feel good about their accomplishments.
And I think for us, it's about telling our stories. I don't know. I'm not great at writing great things or anything like that. So, when it's honor flight, taking pictures of that and posting it on our social media. When it's a Veterans Day assembly, putting out a video of a third grader reading a poem she wrote. And just Ottawa, which is just down the highway from us about 10 miles, does a big Veterans Day display at multiple points in the town. And we took kids in the last couple of years to help set up part of their display, and the kids actually seeing that display and knowing, hey, I did that, gives them a little bit of pride. And so we've been pretty conscious about making sure that we post a lot of those things, and then trying to get a hold of some of the influential groups in our community. So I said that we're small towns, like literally 300 to 700 people total population in any of the sounds. But going to like the Ruritan groups or the church groups and stuff like that, and saying, hey, what are some ways that we can be involved to help out in your specific area? And they've been not only excited, but then it's like, well, what can we do to help you guys? So we've kind of really taken the idea that we've taken a lot from our community over the years. Through fundraising efforts, we're always asking for things. And so our last few years, our efforts has been, how can we give back? And so I think that's finding the right people and showing pictures of your kids doing it is what has made a huge difference for us.
And I think like this is what the kids are going to remember. I always tell my seniors, I'm like, you'll probably remember 2 or 3 things I taught you from this class. And my bet is the civic action project that you take on is going to be one of them. I think these are the things we all remember from school, were the big community involved application type assignments. So hopefully, that older, like that community member can remember their own educational experience and what truly holds value.
Wonderful. Thank you. We have a question in the chat from Melissa, and she asked, how does education and experience with voting including official registration before graduation, fit within your district. So probably Spring Valley, you can have a pass unless you know what's happening at your high school. Luke and Katie?
Is this a question like, how does it fit within our curriculum, or how does the district see it? Because I could answer.
Well, I certainly welcome Melissa to chime in, but I also know her. And so
Okay.
I imagine that she's most interested in knowing whether or not you require official registration
No.
for voting among your school students, or if you do anything to encourage that.
We definitely encourage it, but it's also like very much emphasized at my school that civic responsibility, you know, like we have a responsibility, but that in this country, it's your right to choose whether or not you take on that responsibility. And so, I mean, one of the major social studies standards is choices have consequences. And so you try to like lead them to that discovery on their own. But yeah, I mean, not all my students would be eligible to vote. We have like citizenship, immigration status, age differentials. I mean, not all the seniors are 18 by the time they graduate. And so really it's like, there is this piece where we really want them to understand the importance of voting. But also like, you can be civically involved without voting. You can help in other ways. I mean, there's so many ways you can affect a community and a government. And so, I mean, I would say obviously teaching government, that's like a huge goal of mine, is for them to like come to the conclusion themselves that this is something that's important, and to help them figure out where they fit, where their ideas lie, who they align with as they're making choices. And we encourage registration. We set it up as a registration day. And then after election, we'll try to get the next 6 months worth sort of pre-registered that want to. But there's no like formal type of district initiative or statement on that, particularly speaking for Shawnee Mission and my school.
I would say similar for us. We encourage kids to do it. We'll provide the opportunities for them to do it here and help them. But in terms of required, it's not required.
Great, thank you both. All right, we're winding down on time. So any last and final questions that are coming from the group? I'm going to put my contact information in the chat so that if you need to or want to reach out to me after this call for any reason, you certainly can. We hope that you will engage with the Kansas Volunteer Commission in meaningful ways. I hope that all 3 of the schools that have presented will check out our mini grant opportunities. We'd love to be flowing more of our dollars into our school districts. Not hearing any other questions. So thank you all so much for being on this webinar today. I hope that you all have learned something. I know that I was writing down some notes of some things that I learned about civic engagement that's happening in your schools. And I really appreciate that.
Thank
So I hope
you.
Yes, thank you, Sierra.
We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you all for being here. Have a great weekend.